So yeah, this is the new car. Obviously not what I muted at in the previous videos. Originally I was looking at a Jaguar F-Type R V8. But in order to get those 2016 onwards, I wanted a four-wheel drive. It would have been 45 grand plus. And the only way for me to do that would have been PCP. I've not done PCP before. I've always got personal loans and for a small amount of it, and the rest of it's my money. Because I'm self-employed, I like to own that asset. So if anything does go wonky, I can sell it and obviously get that money back. So stopped looking at those, didn't really fancy the V6s. I wanted a coupe, didn't fancy the convertibles, which were in the price range for this. So that was the end of that. And then we went on a driving holiday as a family to Suffolk and see my brother in Nottingham, and I'm in Essex, so a good amount. And I thought, you know, maybe I should get a four-seater. M2 competitions, again, slightly out of my price range. Probably could have snagged one now. Started looking at the M2s, sorry about that. Didn't like the interior, the engine, the fact that you couldn't do the individual options. So that was a no-go. And my search years ago started with a Boxster, Porsche Boxster. My dad's had two and still has one of them. So I kind of figured I'd get a Boxster. Didn't want the 718. Personal preference. I know you can tune it. It's faster, it's more modern, but I just don't like the engine in them and the noise they make. So for me, that was a no-go. So I started looking at 981 Boxsters. Obviously came across the typical problems with buying a Porsche, all the options, history, all that type of stuff. I didn't think I could afford a Cayman at the time, to be honest. And I was looking for about 2 or 3 months. I wasn't expecting to buy anything till March. And then this one came up, privately owned, 32,000 miles, 2 owners. The first owner was a Porsche lawyer. The second owner has obviously had it since then. 2 Porsche services, 2 independent services, 4 Michelin Pilot Sports. We'll talk about the fact it's got the grills, and I'll go into the spec in a minute. But it was just the right timing, right car. I didn't want a black car originally. But you always have to sacrifice something, and if I'm sacrificing the colour for all the options I've got, then that was more than worth doing. Also, typically I always go for the out there choice. I've always gone for, so I went for an RX-8 instead of an S2000, a Mazda 3 MPS instead of a VXR or a GTI, a Lotus Evora instead of a 911. So I wanted to make the obvious choice and see if I'm missing something, see what the fuss is about. So yeah, I've talked kind of through the history in terms of 2 owners and the mileage, which is 32,000 miles, which is fantastic for a 2013 car. So the build was end of 2013, like November. So the options and extras on this car are, and the things you kind of need to be aware of, are the Zoom Sport front grills. Some people don't like the look, but it's really important to protect the radiators that are behind them. Leaves get in there, rots through the radiator grill pipes, and they leak, or stones hit them, take them out of action. So it's got a full set of Zoom Sport grills on the front. As I mentioned before, it's got the Michelin tyres on as opposed to Pirellis. The Pirellis are known for being pretty dicey. It's got the Carrera Classic 20-inch wheels, which look fantastic in the two-tone with the grey and the silver. I'll talk about the sports exhaust when I get in the car, but it has the Porsche Sports exhaust, which I think is an absolute must on these. The sound is absolutely incredible, and to have it retrofitted is £2,500. So if you can get that on, you definitely want to get that on. So it has the Sport Plus seats. You can see that by the wings at the top, but they're not the crazy way adjustable ones. What I was a bit nervous about is whether there'd be enough bolster in the bottom, because I do suffer from sciatica. Thankfully there is, so that's great news. They're also embossed, which is quite a nice touch. It has a sport steering wheel with paddles. It's got full leather interior, extended leather, no contrast stitching. Well, it's grey, but quite a subtle stitch to it. It's also got the aluminium pack, which goes on the inside, which some people like and some won't. I was worried it'd be too much and a bit gopping, but actually it's pretty nice, to be honest. And then when you come inside, So it has satellite navigation, PSM, which is great. It's got dual zone climate control, and it has cruise control, automatic lights. You can get automatic wipers coded, so I'm definitely going to be doing that. And then this is the most important thing down here. So it's got the sports exhaust, like I say. It's amazing. It sounds absolutely incredible, and £2,500 to retrofit, which you can have done. Sports chrono wasn't on my must-haves, but it's a nice thing to have because you get launch control, and you get quite a lot of extras that come with that. So you get the dynamic mounts, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. Launch control, obviously the increased the way it holds the revs higher, throttle response, and so on, and the speed of changes with the PDK. PASM I really wanted because I always lower my cars, and with that I think it's an extra 10 millimeters lower than stock, so that's, for me again, was a bit of a must, if I'm completely honest. Otherwise I would have had to spend additional money on suspension, and I've never had active suspension before, and you can feel difference between having it on and off. So I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but it's a very well spec'd car, and like I say, the compromise for me was the fact that it's black. Few things I've noticed already which are a bit bizarre. So it's not an auto dimming rear view mirror. That was an option, which I find bonkers, but it's a Porsche, so apparently that's what they do. It would have been nice to have folding mirrors, but apparently that comes with a memory pack. Going in the garage isn't a problem, but it would have been a nice touch and a nice thing to have. Oh, I've got Bose as well. I knew I forgot something. So it does have Bose. The key things that you need to look out for when looking at these from doing my research are, with Sports Chrono you get dynamic engine mounts, which when they fail are about £1,300 a side to fix. There's two of them, one on each side, and what they do is when you go into Sports Plus, they firm up to give the transmission a more steady and faster gear shift, and they're a very well known problem. So £1,200 either side. The exhaust has valves on it, one for each back box, and the spindles and the actuators are known for seizing. Again, Porsche just replaced the exhaust, but if you now and again just go down and manually move the valves with your hand, that is something that will just keep it not lubricated, but keep it free. So if you're going to leave your car up, luckily mine stays in the garage, this isn't a massive issue for me, but if it's outside, you're going to get a lot of moisture, a lot of rust, and that's where the spindles and the actuators seize, hence you get the problems. So one of the other things mentioned was, if you keep it in normal and just press this button now and again to keep the actuators and the spindles moving, you should be good to go. The scary thing, oh sorry, I don't know how much it is to fix that. I think Porsche just replaced the box, which again is like £2,500, which is nuts. You probably can get them, I've heard of people getting them replaced either side, so that's not actually too bad. The big scary thing is if your PD box goes wrong, PDK gearbox goes wrong. People are scouring the internet to try and find people that will fix them. Porsche seems to just want to replace them. If you want to replace this outside of warranty, it's between £12,000 and £14,000 to replace the gearbox. There's a big old breakdown on Renlist about how they are actually very easy to work on, but people just don't do it. And I'm not even sure if Porsche supply the parts. So if you are worried about that, and I'm not going to lie, it's a bit of a squeaky bum thing. I'm not sure if I am worried about that outside of warranty. It's something I'm researching at the moment, and that would be the only reason to have a warranty with either externally or with Porsche. And obviously the Porsche one is pretty good. I will do another video just explaining, actually will I? No, I won't. I don't think there's any point. I'll try and cover it in this. So yeah, I am looking into a third-party warranty. I decided not to go down the Porsche warranty route. There are a lot of restrictions, so you can't have the grills on the front, which for me are a must. And I'm just going to get out of the car actually and just continue to talk there. So yeah, continuing this outside, quite a bit of noise going on and disruption from neighbours and people interrupting me to have a chat. So yeah, I did consider the warranty, but the Porsche one is quite restrictive. So the most recent service has to be done with Porsche. You need to pass a 111 point inspection, which is 220 quid. Anything that's not stock with the car, from Porsche parts, spark plugs, tyres, anything, they have to be N-rated and such. You have to change before they'll put the warranty on. Then the warranty on this car is 750 a year for the first year and about 650, 700 a year after that. Given this car just had a service 1 month ago, it would have cost me around £2,000 to get the warranty put on it from Porsche. Would have had to go through a service, inspection, some changes, probably spark plugs, I don't know, maybe some bits and bobs, I'm not sure. The previous garage, I did get information from them and I got the service history, and it says they use Bosch plugs. I don't know if they're Porsche supplied Bosch spark plugs, so that was just a guess on my part. To mitigate my risk, I did have a pre-purchase inspection undertaken by someone who does know Porsche, and I called the seller, and the guy doing it spent 2-3 hours with the car, took it on a test drive, checked all the things you'd want to have checked. So that gave me some peace of mind, obviously, because I'm not buying from a garage. So yes, I am looking into a third-party warranty with a company. I think it's called Warranty Wise. No, it's not called Warranty Wise. I can't remember. I'm still unsure about it. I've had a third-party warranty before, and I made 2 claims and they wiggled the way out of it. So I'm just trying to continue some research on the PDK reliability, because outside of that, these are supposed to be extremely reliable cars. Other than the engine mounts and the exhausts. And the PDK, I think, is a misnomer. I think that's a very rare thing. I think it's less than, well, even searching on the internet, you get 4 or 5 posts that come up about it. So it's extremely rare. Just depends on my level of risk. So outside of that, I'm expecting to have to replace the exhaust actuators at some point, definitely the engine mounts at some point. But that is actually cheaper than having a warranty. So yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to cover for this video. There are some things that I want to do to the car, longer term and short term. So short term, I want to put some PPF on the side. I'm not going to be able to do it now because I put it away. I want to talk about this, but they're very well known for getting stone chips around this area and on the bottom bit. So I want to get some PPF along this bottom sill and this panel here. I also want to put a Porsche graphic that I've got along the side. I tried doing it after I cleaned and waxed the car, and it was too slippery, so it didn't work. So I'm going to try that at some point. I am going to get it when it goes for an MOT in March. I'm going to get it a paint correction detail and ceramic coated as well. I did try plasti dipping these grey, but I just didn't like the finish of it. And it's very difficult to make it look perfect, so I gave up on that. So I'll have a tiny bit of chrome here. Oh, and I've got the headlight washers. Forgot about that when I was talking through the spec. Not that that makes a difference, but they are there. Oh, and I've got the upgraded lights. I don't know, I can't remember exactly what they're called, but when you turn corners, they turn left and right with the steering wheel, and they're extremely bright and very good. So upgraded lights are a nice feature too. So yeah, I tried plasti dipping that. Didn't like it. I do want to get a ducktail spoiler. I like this, and when it comes up it looks great, but a GTS has an awesome ducktail spoiler, so I'd like to get that at some point. I'll probably put an ECU tune on it as well. It's only 15 extra brake horsepower and about 15 extra torque. You can see I've moved position again. This is the hardest video ever to film, but apparently it smooths out delivery, which I find hard to believe because it's extremely smooth anyway. So other than that, that's kind of it. Obviously, as I do things, or if anyone's got any questions, I'll give some updates. I haven't driven it much yet, so once I've driven it more, then I'll give an update just on my thoughts then as well, in terms of the engine, the exhaust, the handling, and just how I feel about the car overall. But until then, sorry it's a bit disjointed. I tried to film this about 5 times, so hopefully this is okay for people. Yeah, any questions, let me know, but I'm extremely excited to have a sports car in the garage again. Cheers.